Today in the 5-minute Saltwater Aquarium Guide, we answer what is a good size aquarium for your first saltwater reef tank. Hi, I'm Ryan, your host of BRStv. The goal of the 5-minute guide is providing a solid recipe and technique that produces reproducible, high percentage pass to a successful reef tank you can be proud of. This is episode 3. Today we answer what tank size are best for a new reefer in their first tank. It's one of those things where there's some debate to be had here, but I think a vast majority of the community has settled on some common sizes that newer reefers tend to be the happiest with. Best is a tricky word because it means something totally different to everyone, but in this case, I believe best is a balance of cost versus success rates. Fact is, larger tanks often have higher success rates, but are also more expensive on a variety of fronts as well. Larger tanks have higher success rates for 2 reasons. First is dilution. Fact is, new reefers will make inevitable, sometimes even predictable mistakes. The effect of overdosing or overfeeding, equipment failure, or some accidental contaminants can be significant in 25 gallons, but the same mistake is less than half as significant in 60 gallons and maybe even completely insignificant at a 120 or 180 gallon tank. Changes to the water, even things as simple as temperature, are way slower in larger bodies of water. And while larger tanks are more costly, the amount of maintenance measured in time between a 60, 120, and 180 gallon tank is not dramatically different. The other reason I'd say that larger tanks have higher success rates and in many cases actually cheaper is the upgrade factor. Successful smaller tanks in those first 6 to 24 months probably have an upgrade factor of like 3 to 1, meaning people invest in success and the things they like, and successful smaller tanks often get rapidly upgraded or result in a second larger tank. Whereas with larger first tanks like a 93 square, 120 or 180, reefers tend to be happy with these sizes for 5+ years and in fact often end up being their forever tanks and have a pretty low upgrade or second tank ratio in the first few years. Investments up front often result in as much as half the cost long term. The flip side of that is obviously the upfront cost is more, not just the tank, but much of the equipment is larger, and the tank that's twice the size will often get twice the amount of coral and twice the fish. It's one of those rare things where I think the reefing community probably universally agrees upon. With your first tank, get as big as your budget, space, or room allows. The maintenance between these common new size tanks doesn't change all that much, mostly just related to cost and success. I have 5 different size tanks I would call the highest success rate tanks, and I'm certain one of these will speak to you. A 40 gallon breeder, a 60 gallon cube, 93 square, 120, and 180 rectangle. The 40 gallon breeder is probably the most popular first reef tank for newer reefers for a few reasons. First, it's not expensive. In fact, Petco often has a $1 a gallon sale where they're only 40 bucks. The shape where it's nearly as deep front to back as it is tall supports all kinds of aquascapes and coral growth that most reefers want. Lastly, the 40 gallon size is about the minimum size that will support small versions of utilitarian fish that are critical to new reefer success and why I believe new reefers shouldn't go below 40 gallons with a new tank. Combined with that, the dilution factor where larger is often easier, I just find 40 gallons have a much higher success rate for reefers' first tanks than smaller tanks. Outside that, again, most reefers will agree that a new tank owner will often be happiest when the tank's at least as deep front to back as it is tall, which again provides for interesting aquascapes, easier maintenance, and room for coral growth. In that spirit, the obvious choices are the 60 gallon cube, which is 2 feet tall, deep, and wide. Nice thing about this tank is it only requires 1 light, so while the tank cost might be more than the breeder, the total cost of the tank setup may actually be somewhat close. After that, my suggestions just get wider, the same 2 feet tall and deep front to back, but 4 feet wide with the 120 gallon or 6 feet wide with the 180 gallon. The last common option where the tank's actually deeper front to back than it is tall is a 93 gallon square, which again could potentially be lit with 1 good light. The 30 inches in each direction with 3 separate but equal 30-inch viewing panes creates an awesome look. Just to give some direct guidance on my own personal beliefs, the 40 gallon breeder is the #1 most popular and it's for a reason. It's low cost and a manageable size. The 60 gallon cube and 93 square are perfect when space is a concern. The 120 and 180 are much less common starting or first tank sizes, but that said, the 120 and 180 are very likely the 2 most common upgrade sizes, meaning after you've got your feet wet and had some success, the size that most people jump to. So you can potentially save a lot of time and effort by starting there if a reef tank's been a dream of yours for a long time in your DNA and you're pretty committed to success and avoided wasted cash associated with upgrade pass. The next logical question is what type of tank, meaning they come in simple glass boxes, reef ready with sumps plumbed down below, and all-in-ones where the sump is incorporated in the back of the tank. The entire Saltwater Aquarium guide's always available here in this playlist for binge watching, but some tanks make way better first tanks than others, so click that link to see what best fits you.